What's up guys, my name's Liam, and today we're going to be breaking down the differences between the MCHOSE gaming mice. I was able to finally get my hands on the AX5, I also got the AX5 Pro and the AX5 Pro Max. We're also going to compare it to the A5 Pro Max, and hopefully by this video I'll be able to help you guys decide which one of these is going to be the best gaming mouse for you. So let's check it out. Before we get started, I did want to let you know that these were sent out to me. However, everything you're going to be seeing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. So over here to the left, we do have the A5 Pro Max. This does not come included with the 4K dongle. You do need to purchase this separately if you are interested in picking this up. But on the AX5, the AX5 Pro, and the AX5 Pro Max, all these do come with, this is the 4K receiver right here, and then these do have the nano receiver. So this one only goes up to 4K on the Pro. The Pro Max does do 4K or 8K. They also do, all these also do 1K and 2K obviously, but these do come with a set of grips and a USB-C cable. These two versions over here to the right, these are both Pro Max versions. This was the first batch and this is a newer batch, so we'll jump in that here in just a second. But really the only differences between these AX5 models, first off, this A5, it does come with Huano Blue Shell pink dots in it. The AX5 and the AX5 Pro, these do have mechanical switches in them. So these are actually using the TTC Gold mechanical switches, whereas in the Pro Max they are using the TTC Gold optical switches. So we'll jump into the differences between the clicks and I'll do a click test here in just a minute. But the function over on the bottom of the mouse, same on all of these. On the right side over here, you do have the power button, leave it in the middle to turn it off, switch it up to enable the receiver. You can switch it down to enable Bluetooth mode. You have a DPI button over here on the left side. So the original AX5, these skates on here are actually stuck to the mouse, so it does not have a removable cover on just the base model. On the Pro and on the Pro Max, it does have a removable cover down here in the very bottom. All of these mice do come with these black skates on here. I wasn't really a fan of them. They're not terrible. Once you do break them in, they do have a little bit of a quicker glide, but I kind of felt like overall they're a little bit slower for my liking. So I did upgrade the Pro and the Pro Max to these Tiger Ice V2 skates, and I really like them a lot. There is some type of a coating on all these versions of the mice, and for my drier set hands, it does feel a little bit more grippy. This is by no means like any type of sticky coating or rubberized coating to where when you get your hands wet, the coating does become a little bit slippier, but it does come with the grip tape, and the grip tape actually does feel pretty decent that it does come with. This first batch did feel pretty solid to me. I was getting a bit more play on mouse 1 and 2, whereas with these newer copies, I'm like getting no play, so it is a bit more solid. They did button it up quite a bit. And as far as the pre and post travel on both these, you get just a slight bit of pre, not a whole lot. And then once you do click it down, so pretty solid pre and post travel on both of them. There's no type of rocking, and the click implementation from front to back on these, it actually feels really good. Even if you're clicking up here at the very top, it's incredibly lightweight and it feels really solid. I recently ran a poll on my channel and I still feel like a majority of people do prefer the optical switches, but for my personal preference, the optical switches in here, they do feel a bit more hollow. They just feel not as snappy or as quick to me as these mechanicals do. So the mechanicals definitely do feel a little bit more lightweight, a little bit more snappy. And for my preference, they do feel like they're easier to spam. So I would say that all around that I am preferring the TTC Gold mechanical switches over the optical ones. The scroll wheel on all of these, it feels all right. It's got these lightweight steps and they are defined, you can feel them. I do notice that there is kind of a little bit of a rattling type of a sound there. I'm not sure if it's rubbing against the base or not, but aside from that, functions as it should. The rubber on the scroll wheel is really sticky here. The center click isn't too stiff and it actually is really easy to actuate and spam. And one of my favorite things on all these copies of the AX5 is the side buttons. They really do feel great. There's very minimal pre-travel there. So very stiff feeling. They're very lightweight and very snappy no matter where you actually actuate the side button from back to front. There's a nice solid wall on the post travel and I'm not getting any type of play or wobbling on them. And when it comes to the shell integrity on all these copies, it really does feel solid. There's no type of bending, creaking, anything like that, no matter how hard I would grip these. So let's go ahead and drop a click sound test. We will compare the mechanical switches to the opticals. When it comes to the weight and balance, on my first batch, the balance was off. It does feel pretty rear heavy there. And on all these newer versions, the front to back, they have fixed it. And even on the left to right, it does feel solid on all these copies. So really good front to back and left to right. If you're wondering why you can see the battery here on the Pro version, I did mod this. I tried to push the weight as far as I could possibly go. So I'll break out a scale really quick and I'll show you guys what we're looking at. So this is the Pro Max, and I have not modded this. This still has the 500 milliamp hour battery in it with the battery cover. So the Pro version and the Pro Max version, this was the Pro version right here that I modded, they both weigh the exact same. So on my scale here, it looks like they're coming in at about 55.3 grams. I did take off the cover, so the battery in the cover weighed like 2 grams extra. So if you're interested in doing this mod yourself, you can still leave the cover in there. Just put about 2 grams on here. But like I said, I was just trying to get it as light as I possibly could. It did drop it down quite a bit. So as you can see here, put it at approximately 46 grams. And their standard AX5 model, it does have a smaller battery in here. I do believe it's around 300 milliamp hour. I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen if I am incorrect. But it looks like with this one, the battery cover, everything untouched on the internals, I got this coming in at approximately 48.5 grams. So all of these models are using a different software, and I'll kind of run you through these really quick. On the A5 Pro Max, this has a Nordic 52840 CPU in it, and it is using the Compex firmware solution. It is using this similar type of software we've seen in all these other types of mice. Really easy to use. You can drop the debalance setting down to 0 milliseconds. Here's what I recommend. On the next page, you can adjust the DPI and your polling rate, and I always recommend coming to the settings option over here where you can enable this long distance mode to give you the best signal frequency to ensure you're getting the best 4K performance. For the standard AX5, this is using the Beacon 4K MCU in it, and it is using a little bit of a different software. We've seen this similar type of software in other types of mice before, but this does allow you to change the DPI, adjust the polling rate, and your liftoff distance. The one issue, however, with this mouse currently is that there is no option in the software to adjust the debalance setting. I actually have been talking to MCHOSE and working with them. So hopefully there's a possibility we might be able to get a debalance setting here in the future. So hopefully we can get that added. And if so, I promise you guys, I will make sure to update you. I'll put something down in the comments and I'll also make a post about it. For the AX5 Pro and the AX5 Pro Max, these are both using this different type of software, but both of them do share this similar software. This is actually really simple to use. It does allow you to come in here, adjust the DPI. You can change your polling rate, liftoff distance, all these types of settings. The one major issue with this mouse currently is that it does allow you to adjust the debalance setting time. However, this slider is currently not working. I've been running tests on this with a 0 milliseconds debalance setting, 1 millisecond debalance setting. So I played with this from all the settings all the way up to what I believe this maxes out at a 15 milliseconds. And we'll jump into the numbers here in just a second, but this currently is not working. I have brought this to MCHOSE's attention. They're aware of it. So hopefully we can get this fixed in the near future. So as I was running tests on all these different models, the MCHOSE A5 Pro Max is by far the best performing model out of all these in the current state of the firmware solution. Over here on the AX5, since you cannot adjust the debalance setting, I did run it on the 1K, the 2K, and the 4K polling rate. On all the polling rate, I was actually getting a 5 millisecond debalance click latency. And then over here, when it comes to the AX5 Pro and the AX5 Pro Max, again, the slider's not working. Didn't matter if I put it at 0 milliseconds on the debalance, 1 millisecond. I was getting an average of 17 milliseconds click latency, and it didn't matter whether I was running this on 1K, on 2K, 4K, or even 8K on the Pro Max version. And as far as the shape goes, I've already covered the shape in my video of the plastic version of the A5. So this is really similar to a GPX, just a smaller, slimmed down version. It is almost about as wide, and we'll jump into that here shortly. So I do feel like this is a really safe shape for most people, and it has been working out great for me. So when taking a look at it next to the Logitech G Pro Superlight 2, coming over on the bottom, as you can see, the curve profile on the sides here is incredibly similar to one another. When you do put these together, the G Pro is just slightly a little bit wider, but not that far off. And when you come over here to the rear, when you're gripping these in the hands, you can feel at the top that the MCHOSE does feel a bit more narrow, but looking at both of these from the side, how you can see they are really similar in the shape, with the MCHOSE just being all around a little bit smaller and flatter. Next up, I'm comparing it to the Duro A950 Pro. The A950 Pro, all around, the curve profile on these are pretty similar to one another, but I do feel like the A950 Pro is just a bit wider. Coming over here on the bottom, the grip width in the bottom middle is a bit more wide, but the difference in profile here is when you look at these from the rear, the AX5, it is more narrow at the top. It kind of has a more aggressive curve from the top middle profile down the sides, where on the top of the A950 Pro, it does sit a bit more flat. And the one thing I do notice about when holding these in the hands, I do kind of feel like this bottom part kind of flares out and sticks out a bit more on the A950 Pro, so it just fills up your hands just a little bit more. And finally, when comparing it to the WL Mouse Beast X, the same thing kind of applies over here on the bottom of the Beast X. They do kind of have both this flatter curve profile on the sides. When I do put these together, they are pretty close when it comes to the overall width. I do feel like the WL Mouse Beast X might just be a hair wider, but it honestly really is hard to tell. But then the same thing applies to the top profile of these mice, where the Beast X does feel more flat at the top and it does give you a wider filling. And when looking at both of them from the sides, as you can see, you kind of have a little bit more of this hump back here on the X5, where the WL Mouse just feels a little bit more flat in the hands. Alright guys, so that wraps things up on the MCHOSE AX5, AX5 Pro, and the AX5 Pro Max. When it comes to the MCHOSE A5, this also does have a lot of different varying models. This does have the original A5 that is actually using a beacon solution, I believe. I don't have one, unfortunately, to test out the firmware. They also do have a Pro. The Pro has a Nordic 52833 processor in it. Again, this one has the Nordic 52840 in it. And unfortunately, I don't have the Pro version either. I would like to test that 52833 next to the 52840 if I were to get a chance to see if there's any type of real world difference. They also do have an Ultra version. The Ultra version is using Realtek, the Realtek solution in it. I'm not even sure if I'd be able to get that to register or not on my XLAT system, but just based on everything that I know, the knowledge that I have from testing these myself, I really do feel like out of all these, the A5 Pro Max is the best version out there on the market when it comes to overall performance. And that really is kind of unfortunate for me to say, because this thing weighs about 60 grams out of the box. I did actually mod this myself, and I threw in a 150 milliamp hour battery in here, and with the mod I was able to get it down to 52 grams. So this also does have the benefit, I do like the switches in here a little bit more. I'm not really so much a fan of the side buttons on here or the coating of this, but it is nice that this doesn't have holes in it. And clearly when it comes to comparing it to the AX5 models in their current state with their current firmware, this obviously is going to be a win out of all of them, which I do find to be a bummer, because I really do like these mice a lot. The feeling of them on these newer copies, they really do feel great. And if I had to pick between all these, if they were to get these buttoned up and able to get the click latency lower than that, or even on par with it, to be honest with you, because the Compex firmware solution really is performing with some of the best out there right now, I really overall am liking this Pro a lot, even though this actually feels really good for the weight that it comes in at. The fact that I was able to mod this and get this down to 46 grams with the mechanical switches in here, they feel really solid, snappy, pretty lightweight overall. So I'd have to say out of all these that this one so far is my favorite. Again, assuming that they were able to do a firmware update and get the click latency down on these. But all around, that's kind of what we're looking at in the current state of these. So again, I will make sure to update you guys if I get any type of update or there are any fixes in the future. I will leave a comment down below. I'll definitely make a post about it, and I'll make sure to get that information out to you guys.